The first light of dawn creeps over the Pacific, setting Mount Fuji's snow-capped peak ablaze in hues of rose gold. A sacred sentinel, guarding a land where ancient shrines stand defiant against neon-lit skylines. This is Japan, a nation celebrated for cutting-edge technology, timeless tea ceremonies, and landscapes that inspired 1,000 woodblock prints. Yet, few realize this openness to the world is a newborn chapter in its long saga. For over 2 centuries, Japan's shores were sealed tighter than a samurai's armor, a policy called Sakoku, the chained country. During this isolation, a cultural renaissance bloomed. Kabuki theater electrified audiences, haiku poets captured fleeting beauty in 17 syllables, and merchants built thriving cities. But how did this island realm transform from a hermit kingdom into a global titan? The answer lies in an epic tale of divine winds, gunpowder revolutions, and an unyielding spirit of reinvention. Imagine a time when mammoths still roamed Asia's frozen edges. 40,000 years ago, Japan's archipelago lay connected to the mainland by vanished land bridges. Across these icy pathways came the Jōmon people, hunter-gatherers whose coiled clay pots bore intricate rope patterns, some depicting wide-eyed spirits. Their descendants would later recount creation myths, how the sun goddess Amaterasu emerged from a celestial cave, her radiance birthing the Japanese islands. Around 300 BC, a revolution sprouted in waterlogged fields. Migrants from Korea introduced rice cultivation, transforming nomadic bands into settled communities. By the 3rd century AD, the Yamato clan dominated southern Japan, claiming descent from Amaterasu herself. Their power flowed through the 3 sacred treasures, a mirror, a sword, and a jewel, still housed at Ise Shrine, where priests rebuild the inner sanctuary every 20 years in an eternal ritual of renewal. In 794 AD, Emperor Kammu established a permanent capital, Heian, modern Kyoto. For 400 years, this city became a gilded stage where aristocrats composed poems comparing love to cherry blossoms, beautiful but fleeting. Ladies-in-waiting wore 12-layered silk robes, their colors whispering secret messages. Power flowed not through armies, but through calligraphy contests and moon-viewing parties. Yet beyond Kyoto's perfumed gardens, provincial warlords sharpened their swords. The emperor's neglect of governance allowed samurai clans like the Taira and Minamoto to rise, setting the stage for Japan's warrior era. The conflict reached its climax in 1185 at the Battle of Dan no Ura Strait. Taira warriors chained their ships together, creating floating fortresses. Minamoto archers fired whistling arrows to terrify enemies. A grandmother clutched the 8-year-old Emperor Antoku as they plunged into the whirlpool, the imperial sword lost forever to the depths. Victorious Minamoto no Yoritomo became shogun, the barbarian-quelling general, establishing a military government in Kamakura. For 700 years, emperors reigned, but shoguns ruled. In 1274, Kublai Khan's Mongol armada descended on Kyushu. Samurai faced nightmares, exploding thunder-crash bombs, Mongol cavalry firing arrows at full gallop, and Korean ships deploying retractable boarding bridges. Just as defeat seemed certain, a typhoon, Kamikaze, the divine wind, annihilated the invaders. When the Mongols returned in 1281 with 140,000 men, the miracle repeated. A second typhoon drowned the fleet. But victory came at a cost. The bankrupt shogunate couldn't reward defending samurai, sowing seeds of rebellion. The game changed in 1543, when a Portuguese caravel shipwrecked on Tanegashima Island. Japanese smiths immediately copied the foreigners' matchlock muskets, creating deadlier firearms. Within decades, warlords fielded armies of 10,000 gunners. Christian missionaries like Francis Xavier arrived next, converting 300,000 Japanese by 1580. Three titans forged modern Japan. Oda Nobunaga, the Demon King, used volley fire tactics to obliterate cavalry charges. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a peasant-turned-regent, unified Japan by 1590, but launched catastrophic invasions of Korea. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the master strategist, won the decisive Battle of Sekigahara in 1600 using fog as cover, establishing a shogunate that would rule for 268 years. In 1639, Japan's doors slammed shut under the Sakoku policy. Any Japanese returning from abroad faced execution. Only 24 Dutch traders were confined to Dejima, a fan-shaped artificial island in Nagasaki Harbor. Once a year, these Dutchmen endured a humiliating ritual, trampling Christian icons to prove they weren't missionaries. Yet through this keyhole, Dutch learning entered Japan. Anatomy texts, telescopes, and smallpox vaccines. Isolation bred cultural brilliance. Kabuki theater, founded by shrine maiden Izumo no Okuni, banned women in 1629 after becoming too distracting. Haiku master Matsuo Basho walked 1,500 miles, capturing moments like Old Pond, Frog Jumps In, Splash. Ukiyo-e prints, like Hokusai's Great Wave, depicted nature's fury, inspiring Van Gogh and Monet. By 1800, Edo was the world's largest city with 1 million residents. But beneath the surface, famine and corruption festered. On July 8, 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry's steam-powered black ships entered Edo Bay. Locals panicked. Some thought they were iron dragons. Perry presented a white flag and a threat: open for trade or burn. In 1868, teenage Emperor Meiji reclaimed power. His reforms reshaped Japan. Samurai were forbidden from wearing swords. The first railway connected Tokyo and Yokohama. The Western calendar was adopted. By 1890, a constitution established a parliament. Japan's military modernization stunned the world. They crushed China in the First Sino-Japanese War, annexed Taiwan, and sank Russia's fleet at Tsushima Strait. The first Asian victory over a European power. But darkness followed. Brutal colonization of Korea and massacres of Taiwanese rebels. The 1930s saw fascism take root. Japan invaded Manchuria after the false flag Mukden incident. The Nanking Massacre claimed 300,000 lives. In 1940, Japan signed a pact with Nazi Germany. Admiral Yamamoto warned, "I fear we have awakened a sleeping giant." His prophecy fulfilled. The Doolittle raid bombed Tokyo in 1942. By 1944, U.S. forces captured Saipan, enabling B-29 raids. On March 9th and 10th, 1945, firebombing killed 100,000 Tokyo residents in one night. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, the bomber Enola Gay released Little Boy over Hiroshima. Temperatures reached 7,000 degrees. Shadows burned onto stone. 3 days later, Nagasaki vanished under a plutonium sun. Emperor Hirohito's voice, never before heard by commoners, crackled over radios. "We must endure the unendurable." General Douglas MacArthur, oversaw Japan's rebirth. Military conglomerates were disbanded. Women gained voting rights. Hirohito renounced divinity. Prime Minister Shigeru Yoshida bet everything on growth. Sony sold transistor radios from a bombed-out department store. The Shinkansen bullet train debuted for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. By 1968, Japan became the world's second-largest economy. Soft power followed economic might. Godzilla reflected nuclear trauma in 1954. The Walkman revolutionized music in 1983. Nintendo and anime swept the globe in the 1990s. Today, Japan balances contradictions. Robots care for elders in depopulating towns. Salarymen seek ikigai, life purpose, in manga cafes. Cherry blossoms still fall on Hiroshima's Peace Dome. Japan's secret lies in reinvention without erasure. It absorbed Chinese characters, Dutch guns, and American democracy, yet remained unmistakably itself. From Sakoku's seclusion to Shibuya's neon scramble, this is the essence of Wa. Harmony forged through change. The sun that once set on empire now rises over a culture that turned survival into art, proving that even broken pottery, repaired with gold, becomes more beautiful for having been shattered.